the major players. The men who make up, and women, who make up the membership of these two organizations also belong to many of the other so-called fraternal organizations existing, quote, for the good of the community, unquote, such as Freemasonry, the Ancient Order of the Rose and Cross, the Knights Templar, the Red Cross of Constantine, the Sovereign and Military Order of the Knights of Malta, the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, the Jesuit Order, and I could go on and 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 on. The Round Table Group, the Businessmen's Round Table Group. And you have these people at the head of your city government, your state government, your National Guard, our military services, all of them, the federal government, the media, the energy companies, corporate America, both houses of Congress, business and industry leaders, including the heads of the labor unions. If you belong to a labor union and you think they're working for you, well, you're wrong. They're working toward a one world government, and you are one of the pawns, one of the tools that are getting them there. Colleges and university residents, presidents, and university professors, banks, the entire Federal Reserve System, the Department of State, the ambassadors to foreign countries, the Library of Congress, National Science Foundation, U.S. Arms Control and Disarmament Agency, Federal Judicial Center, Office of Science and Technology, the Export-Import Bank, Office of Management and Budget, the White House staff, the Treasury Department, Office of Technology Assessment, Environmental Protection Agency, African Development Fund, Office of U.S. Trade Representatives, U.S. Institute for Peace, the entire branch of the judiciary, and every single member of the President's Cabinet, and of course, the President himself. So here we go, folks. Hang on to your hats. First, I'm going to read you a quote from the book written by Senator Barry Goldwater entitled With No Apologies. And this is just so you'll know that I didn't make this up out of my head, folks. He says, the Council on Foreign Relations is the American branch of a society which originated in England and believes national boundaries should be obliterated and one world rule established. He also says, the Trilateral Commission is international and is intended to be the vehicle for multinational consolidation of the commercial and banking interests by seizing control of the political government of the United States. Make no mistake, he is absolutely correct. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand that the sources for this information come from, number one, the United States Government Manual 1991 and 92, Office of the Federal Register, National Archives and Records Administration. Number two, Standard & Poor's Register of Corporations, Directors, and Executives for 1991. And number three, Annual Report 1991 and 92, the Council on Foreign Relations, Pratt House, New York City. Credit for this information goes to the Fund to Restore an Educated Electorate, P.O. Box 33339, Kerrville, Texas, 78029. And folks, if you would like to have a copy of this information, send us a self-addressed stamped envelope along with a $5 donation, and we will send you a copy of the information that we are sending out to you over the airwaves tonight. Once again, may I remind you that the Hour of the Time is the only source of truth left in media in the entire world. If you don't believe that, why haven't you heard this anywhere else? At the top is a man that most people don't know anything about. His name is David Rockefeller. He's the Chairman Emeritus of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Peter G. Peterson is the Chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations. And the address of the Council on Foreign Relations, where you can write to them for information, is 58 East 68th Street, New York, New York, 10021. Again, Peter G. Peterson, Chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations, 58 East 68th Street, New York, New York, 10021. Paul Volcker is the North American Chairman of the Trilateral Commission. Their address is 345 East 46th Street, New York, New York, 10017. Again, Paul Volcker, North American Chairman of the Trilateral Commission, 345 East 46th Street, New York, New York, 10017. Now, believe it or not, these are the people, along with their directorships, who decide the course of policy and government action in this country. William Clinton, the President of the United States of America, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and the Bilderberg Group, which is an international organization that all of these bodies answer to, specifically to the Policy Committee. William Clinton is also a Rhodes Scholar. His whole history is socialism. A socialist. At a time when no Americans were allowed to travel to Russia, William Clinton took a trip to Moscow to learn firsthand about socialism and communism and how it works. It is unfortunate that the American people have chosen to elect him President of the United States of America. Dick Thornburgh, his Assistant Secretary for Administration of the United Nations, is also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Anthony Lake, the National Security Advisor, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Albert Gore Jr., Vice President, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Warren Christopher, Secretary of State, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Les Aspin, Secretary of Defense, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Colin L. Powell, Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. James Woolsey, Director, Central Intelligence Agency, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Laura Tyson, Chairman, Council of Economic Advisors, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Lloyd Benson, Treasury Secretary, is a member of the Bilderberg Group, the international group, and he is a former member of the Council on Foreign Relations. He is also not paid by the United States of America. He receives his paycheck from the International Monetary Fund. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms is directly under his control, which means under the control of an international agency which answers directly to the United Nations. Bruce Babbitt, Secretary of Interior, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Henry Cisneros, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Donna Shalala, Secretary of Health and Human Services, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Donna Shalala, while the head president of a university in her home state, issued a memo forbidding all professors, all administrators, all staff, and all students from referring to the men who built this great nation as, quote, our founding fathers, unquote, on pain of punishment of dismissal. Now, I'm going to go directly from the government to the media. It is important that you know why you don't get the real facts, why you don't get the real news, and how you are being brainwashed, and how your children are being brainwashed into accepting the New World Order, into believing that someone who owns a weapon is a terrible, terrible person, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to cover all of these things because it's more important that you know the names of the people who are influencing your lives and giving you the information upon which you base your decisions for the future. Media. CBS. Lawrence A. Tisch, the CEO, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Roswell Gilpatrick, member, Council on Foreign Relations. James Houghton is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Henry Schacht is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Dan Rather is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Richard Hotelet is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Frank Stanton is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. NBC RCA. John F. Welch Jr., CEO, is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Jane Pfeiffer, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Lester Crystal, member, Council on Foreign Relations and Trilateral Commission. R.W. Sonnenfeld, member, Council on Foreign Relations and Trilateral Commission. John Petty, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Tom Brokaw, member, Council on Foreign Relations. David Brinkley, member, Council on Foreign Relations. John Chancellor, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Marvin Kalb, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Irving R. Levine, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Herbert Schlosser, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Peter G. Peterson, member, Council on Foreign Relations. John Sawhill, member, Council on Foreign Relations. ABC, Thomas S. Murphy, CEO, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Barbara Walters, member, Council on Foreign Relations. John Connor, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Diane Sawyer, member, Council on Foreign Relations. John Scally, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Public Broadcast Service. Robert McNeil, Council on Foreign Relations. Jim Lear, member, Council on Foreign Relations. C. Hunter Galt, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Harding Carter III, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Daniel Shore, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Associated Press. Stanley Swinton, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Harold Anderson, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Catherine Graham, member, Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Reuters. Michael Posner, member, Council on Foreign Relations. The Baltimore Sun. Henry Trewitt, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Washington Times. Arnaud de Borchgrave, member, Council on Foreign Relations. The Children's TV Workshop, the people who bring you Sesame Street. Joan Gans Cooney, president of the Children's Television Workshop, member, Council on Foreign Relations. Have you sat down lately with your children and watched Sesame Street to see exactly what it is that they are teaching your children? Were you aware that there is a character on Sesame Street named H. Ross Perot, whom, like his counterpart in real life, H. Ross Perot, is teaching the children to ask for a constitutional convention? This character on Sesame Street runs around all day long calling conventions, calling conventions, calling conventions. And one of his pet conventions that he wants to call is a constitutional convention. When are you people going to wake up? You think it can't happen in America? It already has. Waco, Texas proved that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights no longer exist. We don't have much time. Cable News Network.